After a long, tiring day, 5 tourists were heading home and saw what they thought was a peaceful field of sheep. Excited to capture some great photos for their social media, they decided to get closer. But what they found made them scream in terror. The day was over, and it was time to go home. Wrangel Island wasn't what they had hoped for. The tourists were worn out from the day's misadventures. As they walked along a scenic path towards the beach and their boat, they hoped to finally reach the shore. As they strolled through the green meadows, Chloe spotted something unusual, a group of brown sheep grazing in the distance. "Look, sheep!" she called out, pointing to a hillside with white spots. Everyone turned to see what she was pointing at. Excited whispers spread as they all pulled out their phones to capture the amazing view. "Let's get a closer look. I've never seen sheep up close before," Andrew, a friend of Chloe, suggested. Despite being tired, they all agreed to take a closer look. With a spring in their step and anticipation in their hearts, the tourists set out towards the landscape, hoping to capture some memorable photographs for their socials. However, as they approached the herd, a chilling realization struck them like a bolt of lightning. An eerie silence engulfed the air, and the innocent smiles on their faces quickly transformed into expressions of fear. They screamed in terror. This wasn't happening. What an unlucky day. To be honest, the tour hadn't started on a good note. Their guide had left them on the shore, encouraging them to get lost in the woods and appreciate the unfiltered beauty of the scenery. However, while on this quest to enjoy their day, the tourists encountered a pack of hungry bears. Hearts pounding and hands quivering, they all dispersed and ran for their lives. The bears started to chase them menacingly, their growls echoing through the atmosphere like a portent of impending disaster. Each person attempted to flee from the fierce animals that were after them. In a last-ditch effort to survive, Chloe ran into the underbrush, her heart thumping in her ears and her lungs burning from exertion. Just when she thought she couldn't run any longer, she stumbled upon a hidden cave nestled within the rocky cliffs. With no other option left, she went inside, praying that the bears wouldn't find her. Meanwhile, Andrew ran towards the dense forest, following another tourist, Charles. However, that decision wasn't the best. Amid their heavy breathing and footsteps, they could still hear the heavy growls of the bears through the dense foliage. The men fled, the distant roar of the bears spurring them on. Branches snagged at their clothes and thorns pricked their skin, but they pressed forward, driven by sheer terror. Hours seemed to pass as they stumbled through the underbrush, their breath coming in ragged gasps. Charles clutched his guidebook like a lifeline, its pages torn and tattered. "I think we're lost," he said, breathing heavily. "So, what do we do?" Andrew asked, his voice shaking with fear. "Let's keep walking. I have a feeling that we're about to get lucky," Charles replied calmly. "Lucky? You must be joking," Andrew said. Luck was the last thing he wanted to hear. What was lucky about having to run for your life on an island instead of enjoying its beauty? He wondered, but since it was the only hope he could hold on to, he embraced the possibility. When they thought they couldn't go any further, they stumbled upon a clearing bathed in golden light. Nestled within its embrace stood a quaint cottage, its chimney puffing smoke into the crisp autumn air. Relief flitted through their eyes as they staggered towards the cottage, their legs trembling with exhaustion. Andrew pounded on the door, his knuckles white with strain, and it swung open to reveal a kind old woman. As the two men introduced themselves to the woman, Chloe was still alone in the cave. She had waited for hours for the bears to go away or forget about her. Her senses were acutely aware of every sound and movement outside the cave. After sitting for what seemed like forever, she finally plucked up the confidence to venture into the unknown. She didn't know where Andrew and the other tourists were. She just hoped they hadn't left her on this forsaken island. She peered around before exiting the cave, determined to find the others at all costs. With each stride she took, her paranoia increased. She felt like someone was following her and kept turning to see who it was, but no one was around. Thinking it was another fierce animal following her, she quickened her pace. She was disheartened by how things had turned out. They'd come to enjoy the island, but now she was lost, calling out for Andrew and on the verge of tears. The thought of a bear appearing terrified her. Alone, with only birds and a breeze for company, she tripped on a rock, twisting her ankle. Overcome with despair, she cried, feeling hungry, exhausted, and vulnerable. Just when she felt hopeless, Andrew and Charles appeared, having also been searching for a way back. They helped her up and guided her towards safety. They soon spotted a cottage, and Chloe felt a spark of hope. Inside, they met an old lady who took them in. She advised against returning to the forest and planned to call the tour guide for help. While waiting, she made chamomile tea to soothe their nerves. Andrew and Charles tried to relax, hoping the others were safe and would be found soon. After a while, the chamomile tea helped them relax a little, and the old lady started chit-chatting to take their minds off the harrowing experience. As they waited for the rescuers, they enjoyed listening to stories about Wrangel Island when they heard Chloe's voice calling out Andrew's name. He rushed outside and hugged her, happy to be reunited with his friend. They entered the cottage, and their host made more chamomile tea for the new guests. They were all happy to be safe and sound despite the horrible ordeal they had gone through. It was a blessing that they had found each other again. After an hour together, they decided to head back to the shore. The old lady showed them a quicker route, and they thanked her before setting off. The walk was silent, with only birds chirping and a cool breeze. Nearing the shore, Chloe spotted what she thought were sheep grazing in a field. Excited to see something good, they went closer, only to find that the sheep were actually cleverly disguised bears. "Oh no, not again!" one of them yelled. A wave of panic surged through their veins as they realized the enormity of the situation. These charming animals were not the friendly, harmless creatures they had anticipated. Fear gripped their hearts, and their instincts screamed at them to flee. However, they were not ready for another chase throughout the island. What they had gone through was enough for the day. Moreover, they knew by now that running away from the bears only spurred them on. They were predators after all and saw everything running as prey waiting to be chased. So they all took a deep breath and decided they would step away slowly without turning their backs to the bears. Just as they walked away, Chloe's eyes met a bear that evoked emotions in her. It was all alone, far from the rest of the group, and it seemed to be struggling with something. It suddenly dawned on her that perhaps this bear had been the presence shadowing her in the woods earlier. Maybe it had hoped for her to help it there, but she had been too distressed to notice amidst her fear. A glimmer of compassion found its way through her. Gazing upon the troubled bear, she saw a creature in need. A sharper look revealed that it had gotten its front paws entangled in some thorny bushes, and its face reflected distress. "Guys, I think the bear needs our help," Chloe informed the rest of the group. They all looked at her like she was deranged. "Are you crazy? That's a bear. Have you forgotten what happened to you today because of these creatures? Count me out. I've had enough for today," one of them said. All of them refused to help the bear, but Chloe didn't give up and managed to convince them to at least get a little closer. Summoning their courage, they carefully approached the bear, their hearts pounding with fear. The creature locked its gaze onto them, snarling softly as a warning. However, it seemed more scared of them than ready to pounce, and its dejected demeanor broke everyone's heart. Chloe approached the bear slowly, speaking calmly as she got closer. Andrew and Charles joined her, surrounding the bear carefully. The bear, not aggressive, seemed to appreciate their help. Together, they freed it from the trap. As it scampered away, the bear gave a roar that made the other bears stop and stare. Chloe, Andrew, and Charles were relieved but wary, unsure if the other bears would attack. They decided to head back to the boat, feeling a strong sense of camaraderie and accomplishment from their unexpected adventure. What do you think of this story? Let us know in the comments section. Thank you.